Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now, the last one for the month of March. I am Adam Bernard at Pucking Thoughts, and with me, as always, my line mates, Mr. at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera, and then Christopher Morais at Fuzzy Chris 91. Fellas, we are getting closer and closer to the playoffs, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Couple of housekeeping items we got to take care of. First and foremost, happy birthday to our executive producer, Milo, who is now 1 year of age. So... well, I hope he got a lot of milk bones yesterday, but sorry about the paw injury, apparently.
He is doing great. He's officially won. Time goes by quick when you're having fun. We got a whole bunch of birthday activities set up here. I'm going to hang out with the fam, my mom and dad. So we're going to obviously celebrate his existence on the face of the earth. He did break a nail, yes, but he is good. Nail is still... there he's been a little bit quieter, and I'm not gonna lie, if you've had a dog, especially a young one or a Jack Russell that has an endless amount of energy, he's basically Connor McDavid. You can't slow him down, and you can't catch him either. So it's been a little bit quieter now. I'm not complaining, but he has definitely been spoiled. We're gonna have a nice little party with all the toys he could possibly want that hopefully will last more than 10 minutes.
Happy to have him make it to one and enjoy the fruits of his labor. And not that he does that all that much, but we don't want to talk too badly about him because he is our executive producer. And other big news, the bobbleheads have been found. The Jaromir Jagr bobbleheads that were stolen were recovered. They were found in Ontario, California. No, I had nothing to do with it. Ontario is many hours south of me. No, why would I have them go there anyway? I would have them come closer to Northern California if I was involved. But I guess they'll get there into the Penguins' hands and they'll do the giveaway when they have to. But there will be a movie made about that someday for sure.
I assume that all the fans that were going to that game have gotten some kind of voucher or something for this.
That's interesting. Yes. Yeah, because if you bought the tickets for that game, like I want that bobblehead.
Yeah,
I don't go through. I think they're having like a drive-through kind of thing where you present your voucher and you can get one. I think this should be turned into a movie. I also think the CIA or FBI should comment about this because they're just like, hey, they're like, we negotiated the return of the container. I was like, this is a movie waiting to happen. What do you mean you negotiated the return? Like, I would have loved to have been there with the police negotiating the return of Jaromir Jagr bobblehead.
Like, did they know like they were hot on the trail for the bobbleheads, or did they know they were hot on the trail for something, and then they found out, oh, it was just measly bobblehead? Not measly. We each wanted one, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're working for the FBI or the CIA, unless you're a diehard Penguins fan, finding a truckload of Jaromir Jagr bobbleheads is not the case you're hoping and dreaming for.
I want to know if they're all accounted for.
Right, there's got to be some missing off of that truck. There's no way that load is untouched.
I feel like there's I'm glad they found it, but there's so many details as to like, how did this go missing? Where did you find it? How did you coordinate the return of this? Like, just like, was Gritty involved? Like, all of I have a lot of questions, and I probably have even more now after they're like, hey, we negotiated the return of it. There's a lot of unanswered.
It's got to be an inside job on some level for them to know that was the truck of bobblehead. So I want to know what like level employee was the one that was like, feeding the information.
All the teams should have collaborated. Oh, well, at least all the teams that Jaromir Jagr's been on, and do a set. And you'd have to go to every game to get one of those sets. You got to travel, but if you could do it, I mean,
that's an idea, and somebody needs to get on that because there's. And like those bobbleheads will flip. The problem is like an aftermarket, they'll like sell for like crazy. That's all you're doing is creating this huge aftermarket for Jagr bobbleheads that'll go for thousands of dollars. Now, speaking of the Penguins, we're going to start today. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened over the weekend, very, very briefly here, because we had a unique certain scenario where 2 4-0 leads were blown on Saturday, and then on Monday, the Penguins had a 4-0 lead about 16 minutes through the second period against Colorado before they made their run. Scored 2 to close the second, 2 in the third, and then ended the game under a minute into overtime, courtesy of a Jonathan Drouin goal from Cale Makar and Nate McKinnon, which, by the way, was assist number 60 and 78, respectively, which are just ridiculous numbers for assists. Let's see here. Now, the Sharks were up 4-0 through almost 7 minutes into the second. Now, I was at that game. This was the giveaway, by the way. San Jose Sharks soccer jersey. Not bad. One of the perks of the team being bad is the giveaways get much better. Um, you know,
I you know I
Solo and go ahead.
I've been seeing this a lot because the Mets did this last season, where they gave away hockey jerseys, football jerseys, like I like when the teams are starting to do this now and starting to delve into other kind of jerseys and shirts to see what the concept would look like if they were on. And actually, the Mets are going to do another one this season with the hockey again. So I'll be going to that game as well.
So
New
the
Mets
Sharks
hockey
in the
jerseys.
past have done like practice jerseys, but they will do like in 49er colors and Warrior colors, a Giants theme. So like, and I have a couple of those that I use for like, pickups, and they're pretty good. But
Yeah.
so I'm at that game, 4-0. Sharks are cruising. Fabian Zetterlund, Thomas Bortolo each got 2 goals, and then the Blackhawks kind of do the same thing. They make their way back, and then 18 seconds into overtime, Blackhawks end up winning that game. Which blown lead was worse is the question that Christopher Morais wanted to ask today. So I'll give you the floor first. Which blown lead was worse?
I will say this: Habs do give out a couple of bobbleheads here and there. They don't give out many things. They don't. There's no free parking.
But you don't need to. You're the Canadians.
True.
Like,
you don't even have to entice me. I love how, like, did you buy Sharks tickets on game day?
So what I did is me and a buddy go to a Sharks game every year. We both wanted to see Connor Bedard, but there's no way I'm making that 2-hour drive with traffic on the way down if Bedard wasn't healthy. So the second he got through the Anaheim game on Thursday, I texted my buddy. I'm like, I got the late game tonight for my rec league. As soon as I'm done, I'll buy the tickets. And that's what I did. And we got pretty good seats.
Like 2 days before? Not even?
Yeah. Like the game was Saturday. I bought the tickets at like midnight Thursday night because I was
absolutely wild that you can buy last minute tickets. That's a foreign concept here. I don't know how people do that. Just show up to the rink and just be like, hey, I'll buy tickets. That I think is wonderful. When you're like, yeah, I just wanted to check if he was healthy and then go. And meanwhile, I'm like, what do they have left here where I can sit in the top of the nosebleeds? Anyways, I mean, it's not San Jose blowing a lead. I mean, blowing it to Chicago is definitely one thing. But that was a toilet bowl matchup. So okay, both teams are terrible. So you both, like, I guess, like, the Sharks remembered that they got a tank, and then they're like, oh no, like, let's figure it out. It is one thing though to give up, 5 goals to Chicago on the road. That's one of it.
Especially if you're Logan Cooley, who is like a lifelong Sharks fan, came up through the junior Sharks program, making his first San Jose start in San Jose. And that was not.
I watched the entire Colorado Penguins game, and like I had the Colorado puck line, and at one point I was like, okay, well, this has gone through. But you could see Colorado starting to figure it out. Like, they were the better team at every given point. They just started poorly. They just played poorly. And then all of a sudden they just turned on the Jets, and there was no denying them. You knew Nathan McKinnon and that whole top line was going to take over. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. And I mean, that pretty much sums up the Pittsburgh Penguins season in a nutshell. Like, they are atrocious. This is a terrible team, and it is going to get a lot worse before it gets better for them. So if you're a Penguins fan and you think this is rock bottom, I suggest you grab a shovel, maybe a chair, get yourself a cold one, start digging a real hole, because it's going to get a lot worse.
You thought bobbleheads getting stolen was bad. Just wait.
Yeah, no, it's getting worse. It's not good.
I agree. I think it's definitely the Pittsburgh Colorado game. Just like you guys said, if you didn't think it could get worse, it just keeps getting worse for Pittsburgh. And Colorado's on a run right now. I think they're 9-1 in their last, or 9-1-1 in their last 10 games. So they're on a roll. Pittsburgh is in the depths of their conference. So,
here's what I'll say. For Colorado, that's a nice test, because let's face it, in the playoffs, there's going to be a time when you find yourself down real quick. All of a sudden, the team gets off the hot start. Now, granted, they're going to be a much better team than the Penguins, but that's a nice little wake-up call a few weeks before the playoffs that, hey, we got to mind our P's and Q's. Like, even a team like the Penguins can jump us 4-0, but we had the ability to dig down, come back, and get a win we should have had in the first place. So that's good for them. Now, the thing I tried to keep in mind and tell other Sharks fans on the way out is, like, this is a team you want to blow a lead to. Let them have that extra point. Let them get that leg up in the, or leg down in the draft lottery, depending upon how you want to have your perspective. But I think I would say I would go with probably the Sharks one is worse, because, like, man, like, it was so close. Like, you could almost see them take the foot off the gas. And it's like, what are you doing here? Like, the building was actually pretty packed for a Saturday night for a team like the Sharks. It was a good game, but nonetheless, that's enough review. Let's look at the schedule for tonight, because there's some doozies on the schedule. You got the Bruins at the Panthers, Flyers at the Rangers, Red Wings at the Capitals, Vegas at Nashville, Oilers at Jets, and I threw the Blue Jackets at Coyotes on there just because Josh Doan is making his debut, obviously the son of Shane Doan. And it's not a nepotism thing here. This guy is leading his team and rookies in scoring with 46 points down in the AHL with the Tucson Roadrunners. So well-deserved call up there. But among those playoff matchups there, which one do you think is the most juiciest? Which one are you looking forward to tonight?
I will tune in late to watch Montreal get absolutely steamrolled by Colorado tonight. Montreal is in Colorado. We just mentioned everything that they did to them. I also watched Colorado play Columbus, and they made Columbus look like an ECHL team, and Montreal's probably in that same range. So maybe I'll tune in late to watch that. I'm going to watch the Winnipeg Jets. I said nice things about them last time I was here, and I put my neck out for them, and they have played poorly. Okay. I know you guys were like, tough schedule for them. Can they win the Central? And they have looked miserable. And like Winnipeg is a iffy city. It's basically, it's basically the Buffalo, of Canada. But there's not much to do there.
Don't insult Buffalo like that.
Buffalo is just not a great city, man. My apologies to the good 7 people in Buffalo. Like, it's just not a great city. And Winnipeg, man, come on, you guys know. Like, it's not a hotbed. You stop in Winnipeg because you got lost. But they have a good team, right? Great goalie, and they have played miserably. So I want to see Winnipeg try. This is a good test for them. They got to play Edmonton, right? Like the Oilers, you know what you're getting when they come in here, and it is pure offense. So the Winnipeg Jets have been good at home, good defensive team. I want to see them get back to this thing called winning. Do it for me, so I don't get the the 4 people coming in and being like, "Oh, look what you said, you backed the Jets," and now like as if I have any curse power in my life here, like as if I can master something. But
you were pretty hot and heavy on the Jets last episode.
I said nice things about the Winnipeg Jets, and this is how Connor Hellebuck and the rest of that team rewards me. God, come on.
I mean, for me, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go Red Wings Capitals tonight, because you got 2 teams that are clawing their way for what's seemingly, if we're going to assume Tampa's going to take one of those wild card spots, and these are the 2 teams that are best shot at getting the second one. You got a matchup here with about 4 weeks to go. It's message sending time. It's a time to get 2 direct points against somebody you're competing with or trying to keep behind you. The Capitals do have the other side of this, and we can talk about this later when we get to the wild card stuff, where they could still get the 3 spot in the Metropolitan. So Washington's hot right now. Detroit's very on and off. So it really depends on what Red Wings team shows up tonight. If the good Red Wings team shows up tonight, we should have a hell of a hockey game there. So I would look at that Detroit-Washington game.
All these games have big implications, and as good as Bruins and Panthers could be, because you're fighting to try to get to that President's Trophy, I like to see the teams that are fighting to get in. You already took Red Wings Capitals. I'm going to take Vegas Nashville. Nashville's one of the hottest teams, and maybe the hottest team right now in hockey. So I want to see if they can continue their run. Who knows if it lasts to the playoffs or through the playoffs? Maybe they use all up their energy now. But man, it's a fun ride for that Nashville team to see where they had started the season and seeing how far they've come and how important Saros has been, and how important, just the whole team has come together and turned it around. And then you got Vegas, in that final spot, and they're also on a winning streak as well. See if one of these 2 can leapfrog each other. They're only out by 3 points. So we'll see what happens in that matchup. So I'm going Nashville and Vegas.
This is a huge 2-day stretch for Vegas, because they have a chance to beat the team that's chasing them in the standings, which they did in overtime last night. And now they got a chance to gain 2 points on the team that's directly in front of them. Same amount of games remaining. So Vegas, Nashville, definitely one of the marquee matchups of the night. And we'll get into the wild card stuff in a minute, but I think Vegas I'm not going to say St. Louis is done, but that, St. Louis really needed to get 2 points in regulation without Vegas getting anything last night, is what they really needed. But we'll talk a little more wild card in a second here. One thing I wanted to get into briefly before we talk wild card picture and the Nashville Predators is, we've got the Frozen Four going on, or at least the opening stages of the Frozen Four this weekend. You got the 16 teams going. First off, congrats to the Ohio State Buckeyes on the women's side on defeating Big Ten rivals Wisconsin 1-0 in the women's title game. They were the number 1 overall seed heading in. Wisconsin was the 2, so no real shocker though. Those two met in the finals. Also, Cornell's Izzy Daniel won the Patty Kazmaier Award, which is the women's equivalent of the Hobie Baker. So Andy Bernard's got to be happy about that somewhere. That Cornell won. So here's some things to watch in the men's tournament. First, we got to start with Boston College. Will Smith, 4th overall pick by the Sharks. He's been on fire lately, so be sure to watch them when you can. They are the top overall seed, and they're pretty much expected to it's pretty much them and BU going into this tournament. I'm not going to pretend to be a college hockey expert, but I do watch occasionally and just reading everything going in. It's pretty much looking like a Boston BU. At least that's the way we're heading towards the finals, but we'll see. Other guys on that BC team that you got to look at, if you're a Ducks fan, of course, Carter Gauthier was part of that big trade for Jamie Drysdale. Caps fans got Ryan Leonard, and Rangers fans have Gabe Perreault there to watch for Boston College. Also, Anaheim Ducks fans, keep an eye on Western Michigan for Sam Colangelo. And of course, Macklin Celebrini is projected to be the top overall pick. He plays for BU, who have the second best odds behind Boston College. Also, sophomore defenseman Lane Hudson, who was the second-round pick for the Habs in 2022. So somebody for you to keep an eye on there, Mr. Morais. A couple other quick ones here. The Maine Black Bears' first appearance in 12 years. Former powerhouse. Cool story here. Freshman brothers Josh and Bradley Nadeau had 4 points each over New Hampshire in the Hockey East playoffs and combined for 91 points this season. So family affair there. Denver's got freshman Jack Devine and defenseman Zeev Boyum. Then they've led the Pioneers. They're doing well. Preds fans, Ryan Ufko of UMass is a deep prospect to keep an eye on. Canes fans, you got North Dakota forward Jackson Blake, who reached 100 career points in 78 NCAA games this season. First to do it for North Dakota since Zach Parise. So finally, Jets fans got Michigan forward Rutger McGroarty, who led the Wolverines with 52 points. He was their 2022 first-round pick. I know we're not big college hockey people here, but man, you want to watch just competitive hockey, tune in on Thursday through the weekend, and then in 2 weeks for the Frozen Four.
I will say this. I will allow this mishap from you, Adam. This is a one strike, one time only. Imagine forgetting about Jacob Fowler, the Montreal Canadiens' future number 1, possibly can become what Carey Price was. We've moved out of that. We've been in a little thing here where we've gone through some goalies, we had a long-term relationship. We got divorced just because, that was at the time. And now we've tried to rebound with some other people. It's not working. And now Jacob Fowler is here. He is this season 29-5-1. Boston College, 925 save percentage, 219 goals against average. That Boston College team is really good. I do not care about college hockey. I barely care about what's happening in junior hockey here. It's nice, but it has been amazing to watch Lane Hudson, Fowler, that Boston College, Boston University game. There's a ton of people covering it on Twitter. You felt like you were watching a game without actually having to watch it. Even though it was shown here on local TV as well. So that was fun. Jacob Fowler, man, this kid is a winner. He feels like he wants it. He says all the right things. It's all good. He's got a great team, but he was really, really good against Boston University. If it wasn't for him, that game would have been a lot different. So let's just put some respect on the future. Probably going to win a Vezina. If he does win the Hart, he obviously collects the Vezina. I'm pretty sure the last goalie to win a Hart and a Vezina was false. It was Carey Price, but it was Jose Theodore before. Yes.
Now this love is a little bit different, right? This love is a little bit different from the Devin Levi love.
Thank you for bringing that up.
You are all in on this one, right?
That's right. Devin Levi could still grow into this. He can get there. It's tough. Again, I take my L's where I can, but man, Jacob Fowler is good, man. This kid, just win it there. 3rd round pick, 69 overall, right? Very nice. The kid's got a shot here. I love it. Everybody says great things about it. He's a competitor. great year. Maybe he goes another year at Boston College, does whatever he needs to do. But in a few years' time, when this Montreal team is ready to take off, I have a feeling he's going to be here. It might be a struggle because goalies develop late. It's the toughest position to play in hockey. No room for error. Even the future Hall of Famer Carey Price, once upon a time, struggled as well. So I'm going to pump the brakes on it. But this kid is it. Get yourself a Fowler jersey now from Boston College. I'm sure you can buy them on their team website.
See, I would think you're torn because if you end up being right about Devon Levi, then that might come at the expense of some victories for your team in the same division with the Buffalo Sabres. So, as much as I want to be right in that situation, maybe I want to be wrong.
I mean, look, I will happily attend a Devon Levi versus Jacob Fowler hockey game. At that point, I'll be okay with it. I might have to hit 40 by the time that happens, but I will. Hey, I'll be there. I will watch it. At that point, Cole Caulfield will be scoring 50 a year. Hopefully, both teams will be competitive. The Rangers will be on their downslide at this point. The Penguins will be in their 6th year of the rebuild, so it'll be fun for everybody.
Looking at the tournament here, just from a rooting standpoint, Quinnipiac, the defending champions from last year, had many a good time on that campus in Connecticut, courtesy of my cousin Thomas. So rooting for them to get back there since my Army Black Knights are not among the 16 here. So go QU. Hopefully you can repeat. But again, looking very much like a BCBU championship. Maybe a Denver can sneak in there. Looking at those odds scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Denver plus 700, Minnesota plus 900, or even North Dakota plus 950. Maybe not a bad way to go if you don't want to go with one of those two Boston teams. So there you go. Looking forward to some college hockey. But now it's time to talk if the playoffs started today. One of our favorite segments to do here as the regular season winds down here on Total Hockey Now. Don't forget, rate, review, subscribe, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We're Total Hockey Now on all those platforms. So make sure you follow us there for content throughout the week as well. Let's take a look at if the playoffs started today. In the Eastern Conference, you would have a Rangers-Capitals matchup because we haven't had enough of that in the century yet. Florida-Tampa Bay, love that interstate rivalry. Boston-Toronto, we've talked about a ton. Carolina-Philadelphia as well in the East. And then looking out west, Vancouver-Vegas still. Colorado jumps up to that top spot, so they would face the Red Hot Predators as the wild card one and the Division II champs. Dallas, Winnipeg, and Edmonton, LA. I got to say, out of all those matchups, man, and yes, I'm a Ranger fan. I want to watch that series, but Florida, Tampa, I think would be super entertaining. I think that would be a fun, long series and would make the Panthers maybe sweat a little bit. And if they sweep the Lightning, then we know, okay, this team really is like deserving of everything they've gotten this far.
Boston, Toronto. I want to watch Maple Leaf fans cry again. That's all I care about here. I want to watch a first round exit at the hands of the Boston Bruins, who have continued to be good, despite looking at their roster and not believing how it is possible. That's what I want to see. I want to see all that money tied up in all those elite players, and then Boston having whatever roster they have and just be like, hey, it's fine. We got this. We've been here and done this.
Your top two centers are Matthews and Tavares. Ours are Coyle and Zaka. We got you.
Ooh. Yeah, we got you, boys. We got them. That's it. Winners win, huh? Winners win.
I'm really not interested in, like, even as we've been going through this during the weeks, the East matchups have not been interesting enough for me. I'm in agreement with Adam. I think Florida Tampa Bay is the best one out of the bunch. The Rangers Washington one, as many times as they played, this is not going to be the same thing as we've seen in the past.
There you go. Right there on the screen.
There you go.
Just remember, folks, okay? Just remember, the Capitals are frauds, okay? I just pointing that out here while you're mentioning that. Continue.
Yep. Carolina, Philadelphia doesn't do anything for me either. So I'm if it's just the East I can choose from right now, I'm going with Florida, Tampa. I know that you have to choose Toronto's for the torture, but I don't know that matchup too. I mean, we all know what Toronto is, and them getting out of the first round. Maybe after that, we've seen the story before.
I do enjoy this triangle of like Canadians fans are like, okay, they're not going to the playoffs, so they're just going to root for like, as much destruction as possible. And we find them rooting for the Bruins against the Leafs here. It's just from as a spectator, it's fun to just watch all this like, sniping from the fan base. It's great. It's great.
We got to make friends somewhere. Like, things that bring people together sometimes is like, for the good of something, but people's hatred for the same thing also brings people together. Like you may have an older sibling, you may not have always gotten along with them. When it comes to, going against mom and dad for the better good of, whatever we could achieve, if we're trying to get an extra cookie out of the jar, we'll work together. We got to do what we got to do. We come together. So, if I need to support the Bruins to make sure that the Leafs lose, I'm in, man. It's cool.
Enemy of an enemy is a friend.
There you go. Yeah. Give me one of those pasta jerseys for 7 games. I'll do it. Fine.
Well, me and Chris get to sit back with a couple of brews, some snacks, and then you get to sweat most of this playoffs. Maybe not during the Washington series, but it's going to get tough. It definitely will get tough.
Well, let's just hope the first round goes better than last year. Let's start with that. This
Washington team is no New Jersey of last year.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead here because there's still 4 weeks left. Anything can change. But if the Rangers really want to go far and have a legitimate chance at the Stanley Cup final this year and winning the Cup, if it's Philly, if it's Washington, whoever your first round opponent is, make it a short series. Do not drag this on. Do not play extra games because as the playoffs go on and you have to face Carolina and then who survives the other bracket in the East, those are going to be long series. So do yourself a favor. Whoever you play in the first round, make it quick. 5 games. I'll give the other team a game. 5 games. Looking out west now, Vancouver, Vegas, Colorado, Nashville, Dallas, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Los Angeles. I got to be honest about the Kings. I want to start there for a minute. I kept thinking all right, they're going to, the way they've been playing, it's only a matter of time before Vegas jumps them. Los Angeles has been playing a lot better lately, and they're starting to, I don't want to say solidify themselves into that 3 spot, but they're making Vegas work. They have to try and catch them.
Yeah, that's all 4 of those games in the West are significantly better than whatever's being offered in the East. Like I feel like you watch the East games because those are the ones that are first, and then you settle in kind of, you're like, okay, these are good. I will say this. I do want to watch Dallas and Winnipeg again because I feel like that's going to be one of the better series there. Edmonton and Los Angeles. I just want to know if Edmonton can finally get back past the LA Kings. Is this the year they finally figure it out kind of thing where they don't have to deal with that, pressure? I will say this. I am intrigued as to what Colorado and Nashville are going to be doing. Colorado is an exceptionally good team on home ice. They're not the same team on the road. But I mean, Nashville doesn't lose anymore. They just don't do that. Losing in regulation is not something they do. It's not something they're comfortable with. They don't want to do it, and they haven't done very much of it. So we've seen teams that kind of head into the playoffs on this absolute burner, and they are here. They are solidifying themselves in a position where, hot teams can sometimes win a series, and that's what the Nashville Predators are. So I want to know if they could at least keep that series close and really test Colorado's depth at that point, because we know they're top line heavy, but can they, do they have enough to really go on a long playoff run here, having to just count on their top line to play 23, 24 minutes a night?
Yeah, with how hot these two teams are coming in, Colorado, Nashville is the most enticing to me. But I would definitely be paying more attention to what's going on in the West than I would be of what's going on in the East. There's just too many intriguing matchups. Vancouver, Vegas, which is not going to be easy for Vancouver. That's for sure. That I can see, being the upset in regular terms, it would be an upset. But Vegas,
once everybody comes off IR, I mean, that team's changed. It's not even the same team. Mark Stone, Thomas Hertl, whoever else is on IR there, man, that team is going to be looking. There's a lot of different faces in the room come play game 1 of the playoffs for them.
Now we know Nashville's got Golden Knights tonight. Now coming up on Saturday though, we got a Colorado Predators game in Denver. So maybe a little appetizer of a potential first round matchup. We'll see if Nashville still got their point, at least a minimum of a point per game streak going here. It's up to 17. They're 15-0-2. See what happens tonight. I do think Vegas ends there. I think Vegas gets them. So if you're looking to place a little bet, maybe Vegas on the money line is not a bad way to go tonight against the Predators. But nonetheless, looking at those West matchups, you guys pretty much broke it down. I really want Edmonton, Vegas, and I know I've said it in previous episodes. That's what I really want in the first round. That is my if I'm wishing for my number 1 Christmas present, I want that Edmonton Vegas series in the first round. But we will see. And yeah, Vancouver, Vancouver, LA played them tough a couple of days ago, but again, Vancouver also doesn't have Thatcher Demko at the moment. So tough to take any of these matchups they're playing now and really, say what it's going to be like down there. Now let's take a look at the playoff odds among the wild card contenders here. With the West, we like the matchups there, and I think that's more because we kind of know what's happening. Because if you look at the standings, St. Louis, after that loss last night, they now trail the Vegas Golden Knights by 5 points, and Vegas has a game in hand on them. Minnesota at 77 points. So when you look at those, I mean, it's not impossible for St. Louis to come back and get in the spirit of things here and maybe make a run at the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening. There hasn't been enough out of them all year. So I think we're pretty close to saying that our wild card teams are going to be Nashville and Vegas.
I think so.
Yeah, you would need a colossal just implosion here from Vegas in order for the Blues and the Wild to even sniff. Like, I don't even think like Minnesota is just like they're too far. They've been good over their last 10, but I mean, everybody else has been as good as them. So they haven't really gained any ground. They've just kind of maintained the pace, and it's not good enough. It's too little too late for them.
I don't mean to be disrespectful to the Calgary Flames. They still have a 0.1% chance to make the playoffs, according to MoneyPuck.com. So they are not dead yet.
I mean,
yeah,
get
the shovel out. Get the shovel out.
Yeah, you're almost there. You're almost there. Give them a moment. Calgary will do what they do best here.
Now, St. Louis 4.3%, Minnesota 6.7%. So not looking likely there. We'll talk Predators in a minute. Let's go to the Eastern wild card picture here. And like we said before, Tampa seems pretty comfortable out there to get that one. Could they catch Toronto 70 game 71? It's possible. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks here. Washington has vaulted up. They've passed Detroit. They're playing each other tonight. The Islanders have just things have not looked well for them over the last couple of weeks. The Devils are still 8.3% chance to make the playoffs. Islanders at 5.2. But those two, definitely the Devils not looking good. Islanders are starting to fall into that category. Buffalo and Pittsburgh still alive, 2.7% and 1.6% chance to make the playoffs, respectively. We're not going to discuss them. So if we're assuming Tampa's got one of those wild card spots, Washington, Detroit, New York, or Islanders, who's it going to be? And I don't answer right away, because this is not an easy question to answer. This is when you got to. We know Chris is not going to take the Capitals.
The Capitals are the only reason they're there. They've done their part. Okay, they've won 7 out of their last 10 games, and Detroit has decided they don't care. The Islanders have decided they don't care. Like if New Jersey could string some wins together, they'd probably be in the conversation. And I mean, hey, why don't you throw the Sabres in there while you're at it? Like, nobody's dead here, because Washington exists, and the rest of those teams are just so terrible at just existing. Like, they could theoretically catch the Flyers, and the Flyers are just like look at them. They're a minus goal differential, and they're just hanging around here. Like, they're going to be an easy target for whoever finishes second there. Let's assume it's Carolina. Carolina can sweep them, under the rug and kind of just move on. And then, the Rangers can beat up on whatever second place wild card team just comes in there. The Washington Capitals were sellers. They're like bottom of the barrel in scoring goals on the road. All of a sudden, they figured out how they're going to play hockey. This is still a team that employs Darcy Kemper.
It is amazing how that team still goes as Ovechkin goes. He starts scoring, all of a sudden they start winning. It's amazing. It's
magic.
When I look at this picture, it's like, man, like I almost take Detroit by default, because I agree with your piece of paper that the Capitals are frauds, because they're just too inconsistent. And I know the same thing is for Detroit, but I feel like when things are going well for the Wings, they can beat anybody. Whereas but again, they still need to be consistent. They need to be better. They need to, they can, for whatever reason, they just cannot, it's that they've had every opportunity to just kind of lock up that second wild card picture and kind of leave the Capitals, Islanders, the mediocre metropolitan teams in the dust, and they just can't do it. It starts tonight with Washington right in front of you. You got to win that game.
In regulation too, and none of these, honestly, they get to overtime, both teams pull the goalie 4-on-4, just empty net, see what you can hit.
Washington's the only team that has a positive win-loss record on at home and on the road. The other teams in here either have a good home record, bad away record, or in the Devils' case, I can't believe that this has killed them all season. They're 17, 18, and 2 at home.
Well, that's
If
your
they would
fault
have
for not
been,
doing a good enough job as a fan.
Yeah.
you can blame Frank the Tank. You blame him for why they're doing so bad at home. But none of these teams like it should have been the Islanders to run away with this one. They went on their 6-game winning streak and then decided, hey, let's lose those 6 games right back. So I really don't know. This is the biggest toss up to me. I have no clue. I mean, right now it's Washington, but I want to go with Detroit since how they were playing well for most of the season. Now they're on a 3-7 bender. The Islanders, I don't know. I feel like they've given up. And the Devils have never been able all season long to get a winning streak started, to get anything started. And it seems like Jake Allen has been the guy. I think you sent me the the tweet earlier, Chris, on how well Jake Allen's playing. And Kuokanen's been playing well as well. So I think they're just they buried themselves too much to come back from this 5-point deficit. But you never know. You never know. But I'm not putting my hopes into it at all. I don't know. This one's a tough one.
Islanders have lost 7 of their last 8, and they've got a 3-game road trip coming up against Florida, Tampa, and Philly before things get a tiny bit easy. But yeah, I mean, they didn't really do anything at the deadline. Lou Lamoriello said this is how we're going to go for it as currently constructed. Hiring Patrick Waugh was the move they made to kind of shake things up. And again, it's not over yet because, as Chris has pointed out, the Capitals are frauds. I'd almost rather see the Blues or the Wild get that second spot because they would probably like the Blues if Jordan Binnington got hot. I'm not going to say they're going to upset the Rangers or whoever wins the Atlantic, but they would maybe make them sweat a little bit. Maybe I don't want that actually. I take that back.
Let the Minnesota Wild go. I don't care. Somebody else other than these terrible hockey teams that are just. I mean, the Islanders have lost 15 games in overtime. Like those are free points you are giving away. Like if you're going to lose in overtime, but at some point, like too many losses hurts you in that category. Yeah. So
Boston also has 15 because you got me curious if anybody else was that high. Boston has 15. The Kraken have 13.
Boston's also won a whole bunch of games and hasn't lost as many. So you're like, okay, like if you're going to lose in overtime, but you also need to pick up wins. And the Islanders don't do that. They just lose.
Next week we should do the same thing that we did last week where we were analyzing the schedules. We analyze the schedules for these 4 or 5 teams. If it's still somewhat, bundled up on the points and stuff and them being so close. Because I really don't know where to go with this. I'm stumped on this one. Like I'm honestly stumped on which team is going to come out because none of them have played well.
Who wants it? Who wants to go to the playoffs and lose in the first round? Who wants it? I guess we'll find out next week. We'll break that down next week. Now, we've been talking about mediocre, crappy wild card teams. The Predators are definitely not that. They could, they trail 5 points from Winnipeg. Could they maybe get that 3? I mean, I don't know. The thing that worries me here about the Predators more than anything is, are they expelling all this energy to get to the playoffs? And then because there's you want to be a hot team going in the playoffs, but this is 17 games strong, and we're on March 26th. There's still, 3.5 weeks of the regular season to go.
Yeah.
So, you're asking them to really, for 27 games just to get to the playoffs, and then it's going to be a lot. I mean, I maybe the momentum carries. I think this is going to be one of those examples where they get there and everybody's worried about them, and then maybe they steal a game from Colorado. Maybe it goes the same way that the Vegas Winnipeg series went last year. That's kind of how I could see like a Colorado Nashville series going. But at least right now, I mean, they are absolute world beaters.
Yeah, that's the only concern I have as well, is that when will this run out? When will it run dry for Nashville? To the point where they're probably exhausted by they get to the first round. Has there been any team up to this point that has in previous years that have kind of run the gauntlet like this late into the season, where they played well, went on a run and carried that through the playoffs?
I mean, there have been teams that have come in hot, but I don't think anybody's ever really carried it through. I mean, this streak basically started in February. I mean, to basically go on a hot streak for 3.5 months, I don't know if that, again, to get into the playoffs, maybe steal a round or two, sure. I don't know if somebody's ever gone all the way like that. I mean, if you want to make an argument of those Kings teams that came in as an 8 seed and then just went, beat the 3, beat the 1, beat the 2, beat the 3, that in 2012, that might be the one. But
yeah, there's not. I mean, like at least the Nashville Predators are making a push, and the only thing is like you work that hard to get there. Like you're already, you know what I mean? Like your engine is already revving. Like how can I describe this in the way that makes sense? Like if you're gonna like you don't have to preheat the oven; it's already hot when you get to the playoffs. I'm not saying that the top teams are gonna be like mailing it in, but you know what? Once you've secured your playoff spot, like your shoulders kind of drop. You're like, okay, we're there. Even if you know you're a good team, like maybe in the Central, it'll change a little bit just because that race to the top is so important for that team. But if I'm looking at some other teams after that, where everything is seeded, you're just jockeying for a position. For some teams, it really doesn't matter who you're going to play. You're going to play a tough opponent. So maybe you take a little bit off here, and maybe there's some, you give some players some extra rest, and goalies take an extra night off. You keep a lot of guys off the ice. You want to make sure that they're ready. And yes, that's important. But we've seen teams who go into the playoffs, they're just like, they're hot. The pedal is just down. So in this case, it's like maybe the team that's at the top, you got to preheat the oven. It's still got to get hot a little bit. Whereas the team like Nashville that's coming in, like they've been playing like we need to play for our lives for the better part of, however long it's been now. Like, why stop now? You know what I mean? Like, we're already there. Just keep going. Just keep pushing. We're already here. I don't know. Yes, the rest is important, but I also think having that rhythm to your game is important too. And sometimes we see these teams with these massive layoffs in between just kind of never find their footing again. They just kind of stall.
When you look at their schedule, the schedule down the stretch gives them the ability to stay hot. Because yes, they got Vegas tonight, they got Colorado and Boston on a back-to-back and 2 straight games there, and then they got Winnipeg there on the night. But look at their schedule the rest of the way: Arizona, St. Louis, who will probably be dead in the water by then. Islanders, Devils, both probably dead in the water by then. Chicago, Columbus, Pittsburgh, definitely done by then. So they're going to, and maybe it's a false sense of confidence that they're going to beat up on bad teams and they're going to get in the first round of Colorado or a Dallas or Winnipeg or whoever, of Vancouver. But they're going to certainly be able to roll through some points here. And who knows, maybe they can even steal and jump a number 3 seed out of the Central.
If the Winnipeg Jets don't figure it out, they're going to be, like that game against Winnipeg. First of all, shout out that you could get tickets for $19 sitting, even if you're in the nosebleeds. $19 to watch Nashville and Winnipeg.
19 American, by the way.
Okay, so $48 Canadian, whatever the conversion is. Still, that could be a first round matchup or something. I don't know. Like that's good hockey to me. I feel like that's a value play right there. That's 2 playoff teams going at it with something on the line. Even if you're sitting in the last row of, Bridgestone Arena, I don't know. I feel like that's pretty good. But yes, that schedule is, it gets a little bit tough, but those games at the end, man, if you're not dropping them, then you're fine. Maybe a little bit of desperation out of the Islanders, maybe a little bit of desperation out of the, New Jersey, who may believe. But after that, I mean, Chicago's mailing it in. Columbus is not even there. Penguins, no, not it.
Sounds like we're going to be doing the show in 2 weeks from Winnipeg, Chris. That's what it sounds like. You are getting really excited about that.
They are going to be in Nashville. If somebody has a couch in Nashville,
there you go.
Okay. I mean, I would prefer to go to Nashville.
I'd like to go back
over Winnipeg right now. So if someone's got a couch and hey, I'll foot the $19 US, right? Whatever the conversion rate is today, and there you go. Just let me use your couch.
All right. So if the potential Predators first round opponents is a list that could include Vancouver, Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg, best matchup, worst matchup for Nashville. Like, who's a team that Nashville you think is like, all right, they're a team that they're a team that could actually maybe eliminate in the first round, and who's a team that if you're Nashville, you're like, nope, don't want to touch them in the first round?
I think Vancouver. I think Vancouver is a team that I would want to play if I was them in the first round. A team that I wouldn't want to play I'm gonna go Dallas on this one, and with all their experience in the playoffs and how they played so well, that's a team that I would not want to touch. I think Winnipeg would be second for me on teams I think that they would be able to beat. If I had to rank them, I would go Vancouver, Winnipeg, uh, who was it? Colorado, Dallas. Put them in that order.
The Stars and the Predators split their regular season series, but the most recent game back on February 15th, the Stars won 9-2. So,
Ooh.
yeah,
That's what set their streak off, though, because then they couldn't go to the U2 concert at the Sphere, and then everybody got pouty, and then now look at them. Now they don't lose. See, maybe that's what they need. Maybe it comes around full circle.
But it's not even like you can make it come full circle where like you could be like, all right, guys, after the season, we're going to go to Vegas. We're going to go to the U2 residency. It's done. It's over. There's no more U2 residency. So they can never get that experience back. Maybe they'll go when it's, Dead and Company or Fish or whoever, but they're not getting U2. It's done. Can never get it back.
I don't think there's a problem with Nashville playing Vancouver, honestly. Like Vancouver's in like some unknown territory here going to the playoffs now for the first time in a minute. I think they could at least keep up. Like Vancouver has a ton of depth, but we've seen them at times. They're not the same dominant team that they were at the beginning of the year. Like they're not just steamrolling opponents. They've come back down to earth as they should. I do agree that their matchup against Dallas would be very, very tough just because Dallas is so deep when they're healthy. I wouldn't want to play them. The same thing. Like I wouldn't want to play the Jets. Like the Jets are a good team. Just figure it out. Like do something. I do think that if they do end up against Colorado just being so top heavy exposes them after that. Like, man, how many times a night are you going to run McKinnon and Rantanen and Makar and Natushkin out there for like 23, 24 minutes a night? Like those are like Makar's playing 28 and McKinnon's playing 24. McKinnon's on this insane point streak. Like it just feels like it's a lot and it's easier to contain. Like, who you have to contain. It's easier said than done to slow down the best line in hockey right now. But the task at hand is it's one line. Like if you're going to lose, let the guys around them beat you. You know what I mean? Like let Ross Colton go on this, this run or Jonathan Drouin or like Parise. Like let one of those guys have like a 7-game series for the ages, but don't let McKinnon come out here and just do whatever he wants.
I think of those 4 teams, if I'm Nashville, I don't want to see Dallas, and to a lesser extent, I don't want to see Vancouver. If the best two, which leaves Winnipeg and Colorado for the reasons you said, Chris, because they're so. And listen, we say they're a top-heavy team, and sometimes that's that's all they got is that top line. Well, there are a lot of teams that would kill to have just Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, and fill in the third person of that line, whoever you want it to be. So there's that. But I think because they're that top heavy, if Nashville can really just focus on, and you don't stop a line like that, but keeping them to a human level of production, that maybe gives them their best chance. And just something about the way that they would match up with Winnipeg, I think that could be a long and uncomfortable series for the Jets. But I just don't see them. I would see them struggling with Vancouver, and I would definitely see them struggling against Dallas because Dallas can just roll 4 lines against them all game long, and eventually that's going to wear them down too. So that would be my ranking there. But yeah, we're going to go through, like Anthony said, next week we'll take a deeper look at the Eastern Conference wildcard contenders when the picture shakes itself out a little bit, and take a look at that. But it's fun because now we're, when you look at the standings here, it's all about, we're getting in that positioning kind of part of the season where like every night you got to keep an eye on the standings and see who's moving where. You bring the standings back up again. I mean, looking at those races, we know Vancouver is probably going to walk away with the Pacific at this point. We talked about, how this is, a 3-man race here. And then in the Metropolitan, it's the Rangers and the Hurricanes, and then Florida, Boston here. So going to be some interesting division races here down the stretch. And we'll take a look in the Eastern wild card as well for that second spot. So good stuff here.
I definitely don't want it I want it to come down to the wire. Like I want it to be last game. This team is getting into the playoffs. Like the West feels like it's close to being done with already. Although we'll get better playoff matchups because of it. But the East, I want that to continue until we get to the last couple of days of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you don't want everything to be locked up and then there's nothing to watch for. Like, yeah, there'll be a couple of things, but yeah, you want to go into that last weekend of the season with at least some position. because the matchups do matter. So like, saying like, oh, it only matters if they go up to second or third or whatever, like, home ice is on the line or matchups are on the line. So that's all you really want in that last week of the regular season.
I just want to be done with having to care about the Washington Capitals, the Detroit Red Wings, and the New York Islanders. I would prefer if all of that was sorted out earlier, so we can just kind of have so I can just focus on like fantasy hockey playoffs and not have to care about those teams, because I feel like one of those teams is going to really let their fan base down through the mediocre play in the second half of the season. Like one of these teams is just going to like backbreak their whole fan base. Like imagine imagine Detroit misses the playoffs by like 2 points because they decided to lose a whole bunch of games in a row for no reason. Or like the Islanders, who just like had a chance, but they just couldn't figure out how to keep the puck out of their own net when that should have been their strength all year. Or like Washington, who just, they missed the playoffs because it was right there for the taking, but I don't know. Darcy Kemper lets in a soft one from the, top of the left circle. I don't know. I would prefer all of that be set out so I can just focus on fun.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, if nothing else, maybe this pack of mediocrity here will lead to some entertaining matchups in that last week, or you got point watching and things like that. If nothing else, it'll at least give us that. But yeah, it's the stretch run of the NHL regular season. It's the best time, one of the best times to be a hockey fan, and also college hockey playoffs. Coming up here later on this week. And speaking of that, I think it's time to do a little sweater weather. What do you guys think?
Sweater weather.
Sweater weather. All right. So today we got two. We're gonna go yellow. We talked a lot of Predators today, and we talked some college hockey today. So here are the two programs in the NCAA tournament right now that have yellow jerseys. Of course, you got the classic Michigan Wolverines on the left with the cool helmets there that look like the football helmets, and then on the right you got the Quinnipiac Bobcats. Go QU, defending champions over there with the yellow and the navy blue. But they got that Bobcat logo there. So there you go. You can buy one of these jerseys, fellas. Which one are we getting?
I will go with the Quinnipiac Bobcats jersey. First of all, nothing wrong with the Michigan jersey. It's a college jersey, and it looks like it. I don't like the helmets. I don't think it's just so much going on. I don't enjoy it. It also it just says Michigan. It's the same thing like, Boston College. This is Boston. Like that, like I get it. Like it's sure. But like Michigan's got enough money in their program. Put a Wolverine on the front of that jersey.
What if they go with the M logo, the standard M? Does that do anything for you?
I mean, it's basic, man. It's a college jersey, and I get that. But like the Quinnipiac, it's a Bobcat. It's a Bobcat. I like it. It's a nice. It looks like the Wish.com version of whatever the Buffalo Sabres jersey was once upon a time with that like yellow
yeah.
Like it's close. It's close.
They used to be the Braves back in the day, a long time ago.
I enjoy a logo to the jersey. You know what I mean? Like I want to see a logo. I don't want to see these writing things across. Like it's no fun. It's no fun. If you showed me that jersey, I would know where they play, but I would not know what team they are. You'd be like, hey, what team? I'd be like, they play in Michigan. That I know. But
I was almost going to do Boston EU for that same reason, where it's just literally Boston or Eagles. Like, well, no, there's no fun there.
Again, it's college jerseys. I get it. That's the thing that they have. But these programs got enough money. Let's invest. If you like, this isn't soccer where they're all called like something FC for their football. Like call them Michigan HC at that point. Michigan Hockey Club. That's it. No need for the Wolverines. Doesn't exist. Put there's a lot of potential there for them. I'm not paying top dollars for an M or Michigan. Quinnipiac Bobcats jerseys for me.
Yeah, it's Quinnipiac. I mean, by a mile. Like, just look at that logo of the Bobcat. I like that one. Kind of reminds me almost of the Predators, although that's the side view. But I just like the colors and how it meshes well together. Michigan really missed the ball here on doing a collabo with Marvel Comics and doing something with Wolverine, because the colors are the same. And they could have did some type of cool logo type thing, even for like a day.
I think that Michigan is one of those schools where there's just like too much tradition and pride for them to ever do anything cool like that. You know what I mean?
Alternate jersey, though.
I agree. There's nothing you can wear them for like some random game against Penn State or something. Or just wear them once. Like, But yeah, I go Quinnipiac here too. I mean, for the rooting interest and also because it's a nicer. It's also I like that shady yellow a little bit better. Like this is a little too. It's like a faded yellow where this one's like a deep yellow. And yeah, I see what you're saying there. It's kind of like the Quinnipiac Bobcats, kind of like if the Nashville Predator and the Florida Panther had a baby. That's what kind of what it would look like.
That's it. That's Milo's face when I try to take something out of his mouth that he shouldn't have in there. That's exactly the look that he gives me. He's like,
is that the look when you have to clean his nail now?
No, he just doesn't like it. It's a tough sell to get him, obviously, because it's a little bit painful, so he doesn't enjoy it. But he gets there at it. It was a 20-minute ordeal, but we cleaned it, so that was it. That's mostly when I'm trying to get something out of his mouth that he shouldn't have, depending on whatever nut or whatever thing he has found that should not be in his mouth. Sometimes he tries to show me his teeth, like as if the whole 17 pounds of him is gonna terrorize me in any way. I put him in air jail, but he's like, I got this.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I will say this, a dog or a cat that has something they shouldn't have in their mouth, that is strength right there. That's how you can, they don't want to give that thing up. I mean, the cat will usually just like run away to somewhere where he can get them, but the dog does. And my dog is 75 pounds, but he's pathetic at the same time. So he's lovable. He's just, he's a big sweetheart. But yeah, if he has something, he will, it's funny if they have something that you don't want them to have in their mouth, that's fine. But if you're also trying to give them a pill for whatever reason, they won't take it. That mouth will close up like a Fort Knox gate and will not open.
Yeah.
At least I worked in that field for 5 years.
I know I dropped a chicken wing at a Super Bowl party. And before I could grab, I didn't even get 2 seconds to put my hand down and it was gone. Off to the race. Wouldn't let go.
And
was it a bone in or a boneless wing?
It was a bone, it was just the bone at this point. Like the chicken was gone. It was just the bone. And he would have ate the boneless one would have been in his stomach at that point.
So your dog is pretty old. So I would imagine at that point he had the speed of a dog like an eighth of his age when he goes to snatch that bone. Yeah. Because that's the thing. Oh, they're old. They can't move quick. Oh, yeah. Drop something on the floor. You'll see how quick they still move.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 of us trying to get Wayne Gretzky to stay still.
And he went to his office and he still made you look silly.
Yeah.
I have no crumbs on my floor. Dog hair, no shortage of it. But there is not a single crumb on the floor, in the cracks of the couch. Everything is spotless. If you sit on the couch, you will have dog hair, but you will not have a crumb from something I have eaten on it. Though there's no chip crumbs, there's no bread crumb, nothing.
Did you have a 17-pound Zamboni running around the house?
I don't even need one of those iRobots. You know what I mean? I don't need one of those to pick up the food. I need one for maybe the dog hair, but not for the food. Dogs will make sure that your place is clean as can be. I let Milo lick the spoon yesterday because there was some peanut butter on it. I mean, I could have put the spoon back in. It was clean. It was so clean. I still put it in the dishwasher though.
I know they say a dog's mouth is clean, but that still belongs in the dishwasher. It's his birthday though, so you should get a nice scoop full of peanut butter and all that good stuff. But yeah, let's see. So that's the last episode for March for Total Hockey Now, boys. We got 2 more episodes before the playoffs. 3 more episodes before the playoffs. So that'll be fun there. But and as always, thank you as always for tuning in. And again, rate, review, subscribe. Total Hockey Now on all the platforms: Twitter/X, Facebook, and YouTube. Opening day tomorrow. And what do we got coming up for the Subway to Shea podcast for opening day for baseball season tomorrow?
Well, the Mets don't start until Thursday, but that looks like that's going to be rained out. So I don't know. I'm going to be there whichever day it is, Thursday or Friday. But tomorrow I'll do a space on the Subway to Shea Twitter or X or whatever you're calling it these days. I don't know. Where are we at with this? Is it determined yet? Is it going to be Twitter? Is it going to be X? I still keep saying Twitter.
Most of the time I say Twitter, but I think I'm in that phase where I'm slowly starting to make the transition to X because I find myself typing the X now when I type Twitter. So
it's easier to say X space for me than Twitter space. But I'm going to be doing a Twitter space tomorrow. So any Met fans or any baseball fans, and I accept anyone to come in there and if they want to talk. And then I got a series preview for the Mets and the Brewers. That's going to be live on YouTube at 8 o'clock, I think, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Nice. There you go.
The Mets going to make the playoffs this year?
Well, they just signed JD Martinez. If he could stay healthy and they could get Kodai Senga back. There is a possibility. I had them originally before he jumped in. I got him at 82 to 83 wins. Now I have them around 84 to 87 wins, which could be enough to get a final spot in the playoffs, but a lot has to go right. There's a lot of ifs on that team. So
I just don't know if you're ready for like a New Jersey meltdown and a Mets meltdown in the same calendar year.
I think that the New Jersey meltdown is like gone and past. I think that you have convinced me to sit on the couch and watch the rest of the teams, and I am perfectly fine with that. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of the hockey season the best way I can. I think my Christmas was going to the outdoor game, and that was like that was their last big game of the season before they dropped out. So I'll take that as a win for me.
Remember those old like NFL films, like season in review, 45-minute videos on VHS tape, and they would make one for every team, whether they went to the Super Bowl, whether they won 2 games. If they were making that tape about the Devil season, that would be the high moment. That would be like with 5 minutes to go, they show all the highlights from the game. And of course, the Devils would go on and not make the playoffs that year, blah, 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 blah. But that would be like the peak moment right there. It would all build up to that. So,
yeah.
Subway to Shea. And that NL East is tough this year because it's the Braves, the Phillies, and then, we'll see what happens.
I'm not even getting into division leading stuff. It's the wild card or not. That's it.
And then tomorrow's Rip and Riff, Mr. Jared Moore and I will be doing all baseball packs tomorrow. You catch that at 3:00 Eastern, noon Pacific on Rip and Riff on all of those platforms. And of course, Chris with the Slapshot podcast and fantasyalarm.com. He's got his content going there as well.
Do you have a starting lineup baseball figure?
I do have it's going to be the figure 5 will be a baseball one, but yeah, I got all baseball on the stage this week. We got Scott Brocious, got to have the A's represented, Cal Ripken, Mariano Rivera, Barry Bonds, and Tim Raines all represented there in the starting lineup studio audience for tomorrow.
Actually, and is that a stage? Is that a stage?
That is a stage. So they actually made sport specific ones for all of them, and I was able to get my hands on a hockey one because that was the most like generic-ish of the ones that could be used for all 4, like the basketball, the baseball, the football. They all look too much like their sport. So I bumped the mic into my mouth. Good job. But so
Tim Raines there in the Expos representation.
I mean, how do you not love that Expos hat? I mean, come on now. Look at
maybe the Expos and the Nordiques can come back in the same year, and all of that would be fixed. Maybe.
Can you imagine the party in Quebec if that happened?
I mean, look, we obviously have established that Gary hates Canada, so maybe I would say this, like Quebec City may be one of those cities where people think like partying doesn't really happen, but I mean,
I feel like
there's a good time there. There's a good time there. You can get because you get a lot of people that come from like the regions and around, and they know how to party. You're in one of those small towns and stuff like that, there's not much happening. So you know how to have a good time.
If they ever came back, I think I might have to travel up there for open. I think that we would have to do a live show from there.
I would do that. Yes. That's it.
Well, right? I'll do that, and hopefully we have the budget for it one day. But absolutely, can't wait. I got to get back to Montreal. I got to get to Quebec. I got to get to all that. But nonetheless, been another great episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now Network, Facebook, YouTube /X /Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But for this episode of Total Hockey Now, for at Ant Rivera 86, for at Fuzzy Chris 91, I'm at Pucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Gonna be back with you next time here on Total Hockey Now.